Hey everybody, this is DM Mike, and this is the next campaign diary for Rise of Tiamat. We are in Chapter 7, Xonathal. I don't know if I'm even saying it right, but Xonathals Tower. This is Part 3. We're going to have a Part 4 because there's just maybe an hour or two left in the chapter, and we'll be all done. It was just as chaotic as it's ever been, if not even more. But first, a few fun facts from the adventure. Actually, not a few, just one fact. This is how many natural 20s were rolled. 14 natural 20s, and we only had 2 combat encounters, and 10 natural 1s were rolled during that adventure. Now, here, let me go ahead and throw a map up because this is where exactly we left off from the last one. As you can see here, we are completely outnumbered. The characters are. It is 20 cultists versus 6. And it's what, 3-to-1 odds or something like that. And it was pretty sizable encounter. As you can see here, I also built out the entire room to help handle this situation because, using the original little tiny map was not a good idea. I had to go back into Tabletop Simulator and build that room out, give a little bit more space. Of course, I changed things, right? But, it would have been cluttered and very difficult, right? Another way to handle this large group encounter was my table long ago agreed upon everybody goes on their own initiative, including every single enemy type. Had we ran with that, there would have been 20 enemy NPC initiative cards up here, including 6 heroes, right? 26. I don't think this could even handle 26 NPC cards. So here's how I managed this to help it, be a little more smooth. First of all, I grouped enemies up into bundles of 2 and a few with 3. Usually they had a mage with them. So that shrunk down everything considerably. So yes, on a turn, 1 or 2, maybe 2 or 3 enemies were going, but really it made combat a little bit smoother and not take as long. Number 2, I refused to try to track that many enemies on my own, so I, spread the love. I gave everybody at the table 3 cultists to keep track of. So I have 6 players. They got to control about, actually no, did I do that? No, I have 5 players. Sorry, 5 players, counting me at 6. 5 players. They each got 3 cultists to control. So they took 15 out of the 20 that I didn't have to worry about. And I controlled 5 and pretty much, the map and everything else that was going on the board. So that helped me deal with this kind of situation. And plus, when you have that many enemies, players are waiting for their turn. And this kind of has, a little more dynamic stuff happening in between their turns. So they're not, just twiddling their thumbs waiting forever. So how did things go down in this huge 20 versus 6? It was a pretty big bloody mess. I'm not going to go through everything that happened, because, that'll just take too long. But just know that the entire tower was alerted. So that's why I've got, a small group of heroes going up against so many people. Now, in this scenario, about 4 or 5, I think definitely 4, fireballs were cast in this room. There was blasting going on all over the place. Most of the cultists had magic missiles, so they were pelting people left and right. Matter of fact, all the cultists concentrated a lot of their fire with the magic missiles on the paladin, because the paladin had like an AC of 24, 26, something like that. It was really, really super high. And, you just couldn't hit him. No matter what you did, the cultists could not hit him with a scimitar. And 2, he had transformed himself into some kind of angelic being, so everybody was kind of concentrating on him anyway. 2 heroes did drop to 0 hit points. 1 hero died. It was the tank, our half-orc. I think it's Maiev or Majev. I'm getting all the names mixed up. Not going to get them right. It's okay, though. I'm going to go to counseling. But she dropped. So many people were coming after her because they knew she was the tank, and they had to bring her down pretty quickly. I had cultists knocking over furniture, putting tables up, hiding behind them. They were doing as much as they could to survive this encounter and take out these heroes. But at the end of the day, they all got wiped out. So 2 heroes dropped to 0. 1 hero, the paladin, who was, high armor class, absorbed a lot of damage, but he was down to about 20 hit points thanks to all the fireballs and the magic missiles going off. Our Yuan T, he did okay. I don't think he got hit very much. He was casting some area effect spells and just managed to elude a lot of the damage. And our 5th guy, the monk, actually left the encounter. The encounter was only 4, maybe 5 at the most, absolute most. I don't think the 5th round even happened. But 4 rounds of combat, and that was it. It was over. But the monk left within the first round of combat. He was at the very end of the initiative order. And what he did was he had stolen a robe, a cultist robe, and he decided to, he killed 2 cultists, or at least 1 cultist, on his way out. He's a monk, he's got flying boots, so he just leapt outside the balcony and flew down. Again, a monk, he's got like 600 feet of movement. He flew down in the cultist robe, went back around the front of the tower, tapped one of the buttons, and started teleporting throughout the tower. At first, I was trying to figure out, what are you doing? And I think some of the players were kind of like, hey, why are you leaving the battle? It's 3 versus 1. But within a few minutes, I figured out exactly what was happening. He was actually going through all the other levels that were unoccupied trying to find Iskander. But unfortunately, Iskander had left the tower and was in the dungeon. So it was an admirable feat, but unfortunately, the guy he was looking for just wasn't around. Now, of course, when he's doing this, I had to switch maps, so it wasn't as awkward as I thought it would be. I would just save the state in Tabletop Simulator, load the next map, save the state, load the next map, save the state, load the next map, that kind of thing. Because, he wasn't combating anyone or encountering anybody, I gave him a little more freedom in some of his movement, some of his action, because he's the very end of the initiative order, and it's hard to sit there and wait for your turn to come up. Even though I'd given him each cultist to control, it's a long wait. So I allowed him to move his movement speed and touch 2 panels, 2 icons if he wanted to, and he would teleport. But he basically went through the entire tower and actually came back into the room pretty much when everybody was almost dead. Now, 1 cultist did get away near the end after 3/4, almost all of the cultists were killed. He booked it. He got to the tower, to the teleporter, hit, I believe it's the triangle or something that leads you outside the tower into the hedge maze. And he ran over there and shot off a flare, of course, alerting the green dragon in the area. The book wants a blue dragon. I got rid of that. I decided to do a green dragon. So a flare shot up in the tower, and the green dragon was on its way. And the monk, seeing this cultist flee, as soon as he came in the room, fought maybe 1 person, saw the cultist leave. He exited again and chased him down, did some non-lethal damage. They got some information from him about what the heck the flare was for, what's going on, where's Iskander, those kinds of things. And they brought him along with them just in case. He had 1 hit point left. Now, afterwards, they found the hourglass key from Jorgen and went down into the dungeon. Now, between that moment, there was maybe 30 minutes of role-playing. We were trying to figure out what to do. They had to bring up the half-orc, which they did with the spell of Revivify. I think the paladin had 2 diamonds, so he had to use 1 of them. So if another character drops, he's only got 1 left. They had to bring up the orc and had to do some healing spells. The paladin, again, was down to about 20 hit points. The monk was fine. I think the Yuan-Ti was fine, but everybody else had taken a beating. But then when the monk came in and they gave me information about, here comes the dragon, we got about 10 minutes or so before this dragon shows up, well, then everybody was on high alert and just wanted to find Iskander and get out of there. Right? So everybody is just running all over the place. So they ran to the teleporter, used the hourglass key, popped into the dungeon, and the first thing they do, not all of them, the one of them, the half-orc can feel the pressure of the dragon coming, so she just runs down the hallway, no, not talking to anybody, just runs down the hallway, and I said, okay, I moved her token, the fog of war opened up, and lo and behold, she runs right into 3 elementals, starting a whole nother round of combat. This one went pretty smooth. They managed to wipe out 2 of the elementals. Still, the half-orc took a absolute beating by the earth elemental. As a matter of fact, she was squeezed in between the fire and the earth elemental. They put one of the other earth elementals asleep, so they didn't have to worry about that one. Matter of fact, they didn't even touch it. They left it asleep, and after they defeated the elementals and moved on. Now, at that point, they had 2 options. They can go left or they can go up. And of course, going up into the hallway is this huge, majestic space hallway, this craziness that's like looking into a planetarium live, just like this huge galaxies and things, just how the book describes it. And they were very apprehensive about going down this hallway. Most people said, nope. So what they did, the paladin is able to raise dead and have zombies follow him, and he had 3 zombies with him. Well, he sent 1 zombie down the hallway, and that zombie kind of went down and down, went further and further and further along, and then suddenly disappeared. And they said, okay, nothing happened. But there was still debate about okay, who really wants to go down there and try to figure out what happened to him? Well, they finally make a quick decision because of time. Glees, the Yuan-Ti, and the paladin, and I think 2 of his zombies went down, and they just entered the hallway. The other ones stayed behind just to see what would happen. And when the other ones reached the end, they would whisper a message back or some kind of method, magical method, to let them know things were fine. Well, of course, when you step onto the pathway, you have to kind of dodge these meteors that come down. Well, the UNT and the Paladin did great. One of the zombies did not make it. He got slammed in the head by one of the meteors and floated off into space. You know, zombies in space. It sounds kind of like a movie or something. But he went flying off. It was kind of comical. And matter of fact, suddenly they reached the end of the hallway, and in front of them is a door. Now, behind that door is where people teleport once they fall into this space. And all they heard was some kind of zombie like, forming behind the door. They weren't too sure. It was a pretty comical moment. I mean, just 2 minutes, so much stuff was happening. I mean, already enough stuff's happening, but down in the tower, with the half-orc running into that encounter, and then this space hallway, and everybody being so scared, and the pressure of the dragon, things got a little wacky. And then the last three, who were like waiting to hear, they checked out the room on the left, saw the whirlwind, and said, nope, closed the door. And when they got the message back that all was safe, the monk grabbed both of the party members. I think it was half-orc and, who was left? Half-orc and Pax's sister. Grabbed him, he has boots of flying, and he flew through it at Mach 6, the hallway, just to get to the other end. As a matter of fact, I didn't have him even try to roll for dodging these meteors. I mean, he was going so fast, they wouldn't have hit him anyway. But he was going so fast that when he came to the other end, he pretty much bowling balled everybody on the end. So everybody was knocked prone, zombie and human alike. I mean, I wish I would have had a bowling ball effect, like a strike effect when they hit bowling balls, because that's exactly what happened. And so they got to the other end, and that's when I stopped the adventure, right? So that was about 5 hours of play. 3 hours of it was that one room just trying to survive it. And the last 2 hours were in the dungeon, dealing with the elementals, and then getting to the hallway. I forgot to mention, we did start with a cutscene. That will be its own separate video. It was only like, maybe 5.5, 6 minutes long. Wasn't too long. It actually involved Lenathan, who we haven't seen in a really, really long time. So that'll be up pretty soon this week, probably right after this campaign died. But that's it, guys. That's all I got for you this week. It was insane, and there is a lot more to come. So far, we're 4 sessions. So I think if you're running Xonathals Tower, you're going to get 4, maybe 5 sessions out of it before you're done. So just keep that in mind. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. I'll see you in the next one.